I'm Ken, work at Unruly, a London-based company focused on video ad tech. We're going to talk about mobile native today, but we're also going to talk a lot about ad blocking and what we're calling adpocalypse. So to get things started, we'd like to show a video, and it's your choosing. So there's one on the left, LG, and there's one on the right from Chevy. So sea of hands for how many people would like to see the Chevy commercial. It's quite strong. And the LG Ultra Reality, that's quite stronger. So can we do that one? The LG Ultra Reality, please.
Adelante.
Permiso, don César.
¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo le va?
¿Cómo está?
¿Me permite sus documentos, por favor?
Sí, aquí. El currículum.
Bien. Ingeniero comercial.
Así es.
Perfecto. ¿Licencia a conducir la tiene al día?
Sí, al día.
Ya, perfecto. ¿Usted está más o menos claro cuáles son los propósitos de nuestra empresa? ¿No hay problema?
Bueno, principalmente...
¿Tuvo algún problema al llegar acá ahora?
No.
Porque estamos un poquito atrás.
¡Madre!
Perfecto. Aquí están sus...
Cuidado.
¿Sí? Ah,
Sí,
perfecto.
Mire. Mire. ¡Cuidado, no!
¿Hay alguien? ¡Don César!
¡Aló!
So quite an amazing piece of content from LG. We're going to skip the Chevy one just given time, but what you experienced there were a lot of emotions when you watched that video. It was intrigue, maybe it was exhilaration, maybe it was excitement, humor at the end, certainly. So these are some of the emotions that we measure at Unruly when we take a look at a piece of content from an advertiser or a brand. We identify which emotions are being triggered by a panel of users, and then we go out and find those audiences that most look like the target audience for that agency or brand. So that's a little bit about what we do at Unruly. So let's talk about what's happened in the digital space. In 2002, the click-through rate for ads were 2.4%. Pretty amazing. Where are we today? It's down to 0.2%. Nobody's looking at ads, and no one's really clicking on them. How bad is this? You're 475 times more likely to survive a plane crash than click a banner ad at this point. So banner ads as a strategy for driving revenue to your websites, probably not a good one at this point. What's going on out there? Do you ever go on a website and then you keep seeing an ad following you all around the website, and then you go to another website and it's there again? It's starting to get a little bit creepy. 63% of viewers find it creepy when ads follow you all around the internet. Not a great user experience for people on the web. And then what about being forced to watch an ad before you get to the content? This is really starting to put off users. 61% of viewers feel that being forced to watch ads annoys them or puts them off the brand. So no wonder trust is at an all-time low. What we're seeing is 97% of internet users don't completely trust advertising at this point. This is a real problem for those websites who rely on advertising revenues to generate a strong positive P&L. So what's the reaction from users? Ad blocking. Ad blocking is just going up, up, up. what we're seeing is that from 2009 now to 2014, we've hit over 144 million people worldwide blocking ads. This is data from PageFair. And we're predicting that by 2020, this is going to hit 1.5 billion people globally. Yikes, that's a really big number. In the US, 16% of users are already ad blocking, and that's only going up. The segment that's ad blocking are the tech-savvy young male audiences. So if you have a website focused on those audiences, beware. There's a lot of ad blocking that's starting to happen on those websites. And there's real no sign of slowing down. So 93% of viewers would consider using ad blocking technology in the future. So what are some of the reactions that we're seeing from publishers in the space today? Well, when you identify that a user is using an ad blocking software, you can then block them from getting the content. Now this works if you are a super premium brand who have a super loyal audiences, and then they can whitelist your website so that they can still access your content even though they're using ad blocking. But it's only a very few number of publishers that could probably rely on this type of brand loyalty out there. There's the other reaction. You could pay these ad blocking guys to allow ads to continue to come down onto your site. Feels a little mafioso, feels a little bit unfair. It's really another tax, I guess, on the revenue that you should have been getting anyway before these guys came along and said, nope, I'm going to regulate what ads are able to be seen on your site. And that's really not fair because you're the one investing all this money and all this time and all this energy in creating great content for your users. And what we're seeing out there is also playing this cat and mouse game. So you can disguise content to be ads. You can work with companies that try to stitch around through their own CMS ways to serve an ad without being detected. There's a lot of sort of I gotcha moments, but this is not a long-term strategy. This is going to go away eventually. So what do you do as a publisher? And what we're finding is that people are blocking ads because basically they're so bad. The experiences are really poor out there, and people are getting so sick of it. Sure, they love the content, but they'd really love to get the content without being annoyed as they go through the publishing experience. So let's turn to the future ad manifesto as we see it at Unruly. Number one, less is more. Fewer placements to reduce ad fatigue, and fewer ad text to speed up that page load. What do we mean by this? Here's a website. You go to the website, you go and want to read this content. You're now served with a video ad that you can't get around until it finishes, and then you can get to the content that you want. Pretty poor ad experience. I'm sure we've all experienced something like this as we surf around the web. There are also 3 other ads on this website. Now, technically, they're all viewable. I know viewability was the big deal that we talked about last year. This year, it's a lot about ad blocking. And 2 years before that, it was native advertising. But are they really viewable from a human experience perspective? Probably not. You're really just paying attention to, can I actually read the content in the gray behind these ads that are being shown right now? Number 2, polite placements that users will accept. Providing non-interruptive, polite page loading experiences. So what we mean by this is working with companies who provide what we're calling asynchronous ad calling. Let that user get to the content first and then bring in the ad second. So a little bit about one of our formats called in article. This ad loads after the content's been loaded, so we're not seeing any drag on page loads for the publishers that we work with. Currently, this example is on The Sun in the UK, and it provides an opportunity for a brand to bring that message to the user, but allow the user to skip that ad if they don't like it. They can close it, they can skip it after a few seconds, and it really provides that user some control. And this kind of leads to the third point. Ad formats that empower consumers. Let users control that advertising experience. We've really seen this big shift in the marketplace where the control has really come down to the advertising companies or the format companies, forcing that ad on the user. And again, that's why we're seeing this huge jump in ad blocking that's happening out there. Another format that Unruly works on is something called in-page, completely click-initiated. The ad is the content itself. Here's an example of a campaign we ran with Johnny Walker Blue featuring Jude Law, and it allows the user, if they're interested in the ad, to click on it and watch it versus clicking on a piece of content and then being tricked into watching an ad before they get to the content that they really want. Smart data and targeting. We learned earlier today in Joe Rip's conversation that data is really driving a lot of the decisioning happening at Time Inc. We believe that to be true as well, and we think that it will improve your user experiences as well as the CPMs that you receive from advertising. So we did a survey, and we found that 81% of millennials and Gen Z either don't mind or like it when they see ads that are for products or services they're interested in. This seems quite logical, but that number is extremely high. This means that millennials, even though we may think they're completely unfocused, potentially not very loyal to any brand, but if you serve them a piece of messaging that is actually something that they're interested in, they're more than not likely to be very interested in what it is. Quality control of the ads. It's not enough for ads to be relevant. Demand and create better ads yourself. So what we're seeing here is that 75% of millennials and Gen Z share brand content, if it's good. So that content piece that we showed earlier today, again, what we're able to do is analyze what that piece of content does to a human's emotion. And what is that? That's the definition of brand marketing. You're really trying to connect that user to the brand of what you're trying to sell. And in this particular segment of millennials, they are more than likely willing to share that if it's a good piece of content. So how do you get that piece of content to the right users? Unruly has created its own share rank algorithm to determine how shareable a piece of content is, and then we distribute it through our own custom audience segments. And you can learn more about that on our website, unruly.co. 6, mobile first. Well, thank God I put this slide in here because this is the mobile part of the Congress. Data backs this up. We've seen this now a million times today in this conference, but here's another cut at it. So this is from eMarketer. 39 million folks going, 39 minutes, sorry, being spent on mobile, 24 minutes on desktop. So you can see the plateau on desktop usage has really hit its ceiling. Meanwhile, mobile usage continues to rise. With that in mind, Unruly's developed an ad format called in-feed. This takes the same look and feel of your website, clearly disclosing it as an ad, but provides a mobile-first solution for your audiences. And then for you, it's great because we're able to deliver video, which is at a much higher CPM than standard display ads currently out on the market. And then lastly, be agile. Test and learn for yourself as the landscape evolves. So the world is changing really fast. Facebook with instant articles, wearable technology, Apple with its breaking news features, Snapchat and its Discover channels. These are the things that your audiences are probably consuming their information on. They're probably not coming to the website directly at this point. They're being referred to your content most likely from a social network, from a share that somebody has provided to them. So what that means is really getting that message of your content out on the platforms that are most interesting to those users. We've done a lot of research, and I want to point out a URL to you so that you can go and download all of the information that we just talked about. A few studies here. One is specifically around the science of sharing around TV promos. Because Unruly is a global company, we've looked at global markets around this particular medium for promoting TV shows. The second thing is 5 things that you need to know about emotional advertising. I talked a lot about this concept of emotional advertising, emotional targeting. If you want to learn more about that, please go onto this URL and download this study. And then lastly, we predicted 10 social trends to look out for in 2015. Please go down again to the website, and you'll be able to see some of the predictions that we've done. And with that, I'll turn it over to you for some questions. Thank you.
Just time for a couple of questions. So the box is ready and waiting. whilst we're waiting, I've got a question.
Sure.
Metrics. Have you developed standard metrics? Because this I think what our industry is grappling with is the high level of engagement with our medium,
Sure.
as to how you can feed metrics, particularly in a programmatic environment,
Yeah.
that you can buy and sell advertising.
Yeah, there's really what we found is this concept of how do you measure attention? Because viewability is something that a lot of agencies and advertisers have clung on to say, my ad's viewable, that's a proxy of attention. But as you saw on that previous slide, just because it's viewable doesn't mean you're getting that attention. So how we measure engagement, true engagement, are other things that surround viewability, such as interaction, click-through, completion rates. There's no one silver bullet.
Shareability as
Share rates as well,
okay,
within interaction. So we're seeing a lot of those metrics get combined. So when we go back to the brand and say, how did something work? We're able to provide that full picture around engagement.
Okay. So what the variables feed into what a magic number at the end that you then use across platforms, presumably?
Yeah, we're able to see across platforms how effective advertising was used by the target audiences that we were targeting, and then we can tweak along the way during the campaign as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Audience? Stunned into silence. Oh no, not quite stunned into silence, yes.
For not throwing
The
that.
talk box.
You didn't want to catch that.
I have a question about how to ideally make ads relevant and interesting, because that's a big struggle that I have as a group publisher, is seeing the ads and going, oh, this is missing the mark.
Yeah.
You can encourage cooperation with your advertisers, but what are some best practices?
Yeah. So Unruly, we work very, very closely with brands earlier on to make ads improve, or what we say, make ads suck less, because a lot of ads out there are just really poor. And what we're finding is that early testing is really helping that cycle. So we're seeing a mass improvement, and it's seen by the sharing of ads in general within the marketplace. So that means that there is a market improvement around creativity. However, it is a massive amount of work. So we do work with brands specifically to get them to test early against a panel, and they'll start editing things and changing things, and because they want to get that share rate up, because that share rate is a proxy for somebody connecting emotionally to it. So I'd encourage you to work with companies who are focused on making that improvement a lot better at the top of the funnel versus towards the end, which is just a distribution of an ad.
If I have a follow-up question, how do you shift the responsibility for engagement metrics from the brand that's hosting the ads to the ad creators themselves?
Yep. So what you're seeing is a lot of improvement happening even within the publishing groups. So you're seeing creation of studios within folks like Complex and Conde and Time, because they understand what the user really wants, and they understand the content and the audience that they're focused on. And what they're able to do then with the brand is take a lot of that creative control themselves, so that they're creating that audience messaging that is most engaging to the target audience.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ken. It was a great
Thanks.
presentation.